Hello and welcome to this demo of protecting your EMC XtremIO data with XDP and XRP. If you take a look at the XtremIO ecosystem, you can already see that we've made a huge investment connecting to other products within and with outside the EMC portfolio. For example, if we look at the business continuity in particular, you can see that we are already integrated into Vplex and Vplex with the RecoverPoint splitter, with RecoverPoint for virtual machines, with PowerPath and PowerPath VE, and with AppSync that we have just released in Q4 2014. Let's have a quick recap of AppSync 2.1. AppSync gives us the capability in a very simple GUI to basically set up three different SLA, local, remote, and a combination of the two, and leverage the XtremIO native snapshot capabilities to protect our physical or virtual infrastructure. For example, here you can see that I've connected to the bronze SLA and it will take snapshot of my virtual data stores in the frequency of every 24 hours. Here is how AppSync will start backing up my data stores. It will discover all the VM that are running on those data stores. Take a VMware-based snapshot out of each VM that reside on the data store that are designated to backup. And finally, we'll take a storage-based snapshot out of the data store that I backup that is, of course, correlates to a volume on the XtremIO array, which is the volume that you see right here, AppSync 02. Then when you scroll down, you can actually see the snapshot that it took. I can then go ahead and just select a VM to restore. I can either restore a specific data store, a specific VM, a specific files out of the VMs, or even the entire VMs that reside on this data store, all automatically done from the AppSync GUI or leveraging the vCenter Web GUI interface itself. In version 4, we've made a lot of enhancement to the way that we protect our local data. That includes consistency group, snapshot scheduler, snapshot refresh and restore, and even tagging that allows you to manage large set of volumes. Here you can see the main GUI of XtremIO 4.0. In order to, for example, take a snapshot of the volume, we just go to the configuration screen. As you can see here, I've got two volumes that I've already created, and I also tag them as a part of protected volumes. So if I will look for a tagging of something called protected volumes, Zeiss 4.0 will already show me all the volumes that have been tagged like this. So let's see how to take a snapshot. Now it's time to see how it all looks on the XtremIO both at the same time, and I go and I select Create Consistency Group. So now I can call it CG, stands for Consistency Group for Protected Volumes. I go press the next button. I can even tag the consistency group itself. That can be useful if I then want to add a volume to this specific consistency group. I can just look for the consistency group name itself, press the OK button, and finish. Here you can see the tagging that I gave to this particular consistency group itself. Now let's say that I want to take a snapshot out of these two volumes that belong to this specific consistency group at a specific point in time. How do I do it? Very simple. I always had the create snapshot feature, but now I can actually leveraging a scheduler, an internal XtremIO scheduler to do so. So I just right click the CG, it create a snapshot scheduler, and I can give the snapshot scheduler a name. For example, I'm going to call it VMFS Daily Snapshot Scheduler. I can see if the scheduler itself is on and off, and I can set up a snapshot definition for the interval itself to create those. So for example, I can have a snapshot every minute. I can go with explicit times of the day that I want to take a snapshot. And I can also set a retention policy based on the values of after the creation snapshot, or if what is the oldest snapshot and how long it's been existed in the system itself. If I press the next button, I can give the suffix a name. I'm just going to leave it like this for now, and then next. Also give it a scheduler tag if I want to, or create a new one. And that's about it. This is how I just created a scheduler for those volumes that I just created. So this is how it's going to look like from the GUI. So you can see I've got a snapshot for each one of the parental ancestor volumes. And you can also take a look at it from a CLI. So a show volume CLI command will show you all the volumes on the system, and show snapshot ancestor volume ID, for example, volume 2, will show you the snapshot that was taken out of this volume 2. couple of other new features that we have with our own snapshots is the ability, for example, to create a snapshot that will be read-only based. This is useful in cases where you don't want somebody to write to these snapshot volumes, typically used for backup purposes, where you want to make sure that the snapshot is only used as a read-only snapshot. The other use case is the ability to restore a volume from a snapshot. Why is that unique? Well, think about a use case where you have a volume that has a mapping ID, for example, like this one, which is 20. And I've got a snapshot for this volume, which is this one here. As you can see, I also use tagging to make myself familiar with what the purpose of the snapshots is. And I now want to restore this volume from this snapshot that is here. As you can see, I can already expand this and it will show me how many snapshots are used. And I want the snapshot to override the production or the parental volume in cases, for example, of corruption, or even when I do a test and dev refresh of my production databases where I take a snapshot of them and I refresh them with my test and dev environments where I don't want the environment to have a different NAA ID. So how do we restore from a snapshot to the production volume with retaining the NAA ID and the volume ID and the mapping? Very simple. You right-click the volume that you want to restore it from a snapshot. Of course, you need to have a snapshot that is already created for this volume. You select the remove source at the volume itself. You press the next button and you filter it. It will show you all the snapshots that were attached to this volume or that I took from this volume, which is this one. I only have one. And next button, I can also give it the tag ID that it was before, or give it another tagging. Again, a use case where tagging is very useful. And that's it. Press the finish button and we just restore a volume from a snapshot. Lastly, I want to show you something very unique that we've been working on for quite some time. It's combining the best of both worlds. It's combining the XtremIO unique snapshot capabilities with a vehicle that allows us to replicate them to a remote site. Introducing Project XRP. It's a unique and powerful XtremIO specific solution for replicating data from one site to another. It is leveraging the XtremIO snapshots. It provides the best RPO that exists in the industry, especially compared with other all-flash arrays that exist in the market. It can provide a replication from XtremIO to another XtremIO at the remote site, but it can also leverage and replicate from an XtremIO to other third-party arrays, for example, VNX or a VMAX at the remote site. All the features are async based, and it also provides integration with VMware Site Recovery Manager, while also allow you to fail over to a specific point in time at the remote site when using VMware Site Recovery Manager. Let me show you how to configure this solution. Let me show you how to configure this replication. It's very unique and very simple and powerful to replicate. So you go to the Protection tab, Protect Volumes. You give your consistency group a name. Let's just call it CG01. I'm going to use the source site as my source. Production name, let's just call it VMFS01 because I'm going to replicate the VMFS data store with 5 VMs in it. Now I'm going to define the journal where RecoverPoint is going to store all the metadata for this volume that I'm replicating. I'm now going to select the RPA cluster at the remote site, and I'm going to give it a time for the RPO, let's say 60 seconds, which is by far the best in the industry. Let's give the copy name VMFS01 CP. Now let's select the volume at the remote XtremIO array that I'm going to replicate to. So this is this one, which by the way, look like this in our example. So this is the volume that I'm going to replicate to. And next, let's define the journal at the remote site, which is this one. Now let's display the group summary. So this is the summary. I can change it and I can configure many knobs and tweaks if that's what I wish to do. But this is the easy button how to do it all. And now I'm going to press the finish button. And that's about it. So what you can see right now is RecoverPoint starting to replicate the data from one site to another. Of course, the time to replicate will depend on the size and the active data that you want to replicate. You can also enable deduplication and compression on the replicated volume itself. If I go back to the XtremIO array, this is how it will look at the protected site. So this is the snapshot that RecoverPoint will use. And then on the remote site, it will also create a snapshot plus many more that will depend on the RPO. So each volume that it's going to replicate will be simplified as a snapshot that exists in the metadata. And this is what you see here. That's it, the replication is now done. And if you go back to the copy and the journal, you can already see specific point in time that I can restore to. RecoverPoint will automatically, based on the line condition, will create more snapshots. That's of course plus the RPO settings that I've specified. Here's a quick setting where you can enable or disable compression and or the duplication. Very useful, especially in cases where the one link between the sites is not that fast. But of course, no backup is good without a restore. So how can you restore? Well, this is really where the RecoverPoint engine comes to its full uniqueness. There are many options that you can choose when you are doing a restore. For example, test a copy and recover production. That means that although I've used RecoverPoint and I'm replicating to a remote site, e.g. CRR replication, I can select an image from the remote site. And as you can see, I've got plenty because my RPO was less than 60 seconds. It will take this data, copy it back to my production XtremIO array via the RecoverPoint in the source site where my XtremIO source array is, and then restore it in the production site. This is useful where your site at the production site still exists. It's still available and up and running. It's just that your data become corrupted. Another more traditional way to do recovery will, of course, to do a test and copy and failover operation where you can actually fail over to the remote site while selecting the image that you want to fail over to. By default, we'll use the latest image, but of course, you can select from any point in time that you want to. Okay, the last part of the integration is the integration with VMware Site Recovery Manager known as SRM. SRM 5.8 is a web-based installed, and as you can see, it's been already pre-configured. I also set up the consistency group of RecoverPoint to be handled by VMware SRM. However, the challenge with SRM is that it will always allow you to fall back to the last point in time, and that may not be that useful in many cases. For example, a logical corruption. I mean, I will be able to fail over to the last point in time with the corruption inside of the VM. So what do? Well, luckily, we also have integration with the VSI plugin, and in order to go to the VSI plugin for this specific use case, you go to the classic vCenter interface. You go to the VM or to the VMs that you want to fail over. So in this case, I've got my 4 VMs over here, which are part of this consistency group here, which is the same consistency group that you see right now. And what I can do now is go back to the VSI plugin, specifically set the VM that I want to fail over to the specific point in time, go to the EMC VSI tab. And as you can see here, I've got many points in time that I can fail over to. That again allow you to bypass this SRM limitation of always failing over to the last point in time. In order to apply the point in time that you want to, you just go to the specific point in time you want to fail over to, press the apply button, and that's it. Thank you very much, and I hope that was educational.